Welcome to StudyIQ IAS English. As you can see on the board, today's most important topic is the non-cooperation movement which was being initiated by Mahatma Gandhi in India. Now, before I start with non-cooperation movement, let's go for a quick recap of 5 to 7 minutes. For the aspirants who are new to the platform, they can easily correlate the different aspects that we have studied previously. Okay, guys? Now, let me give you a brief introduction about Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869 at a place called as Porbandar in Gujarat. At a very early age, that is around the tender age of 13, he was married. And after his marriage, he had an intention to go to London to complete his degree in law. He went to London. In London, he came across many industrialists, many philanthropists, and he got to imbibe new ideas. After completing his degree in law, he had two major options: either to register himself at Bar Council in London and practice as a lawyer, or work as a legal advisor for the company of Dada Abdullah or Sheikh Abdullah. He chose the second one. He was given the first-class railway compartment ticket. And as soon as he reached a station called as Pietermaritzburg, which is quite near to Durban, he was thrown out of the first-class railway compartment. He was quite astonished and he inquired about this from Dada Abdullah or Sheikh Abdullah. And he asked him whether this was the condition meted upon me, or is this the condition of every Indian and Asian living in South Africa? He came to know that every Indian and Asian living in South Africa were called by a derogatory name of coolies, and the same condition was meted upon them. It is believed that there are two to three kinds of Asians or Indians living in South Africa: indentured laborers, ex-indentured laborers, and Memon Muslims. Indentured laborers are those laborers which are brought from different parts of India and Asia and forced to work on the plantation field in South Africa. Correct? And once their contract is over, they go back to their country. Ex-indentured laborers, same thing. They are brought from different parts of Asia and India to work on plantation fields in South Africa. But once their contract is over, they stay in South Africa because they believe that we would be exploited in India by the Britishers. We are getting exploited by the Englishmen in South Africa. But at least we do have employment opportunities in South Africa. Their condition was very derogatory. After 7 p.m. or 9 p.m., they cannot go out of the house. Even if a person has to purchase a bread from a nearby grocery shop, in that case, he has to reveal his identity in the form of a passport size of a document. They cannot use the footpath that was being used by Englishmen. If any Englishman is passing by, they had to kneel down in front of him. Forget about bowing down. They had to kneel down on their knees in front of him. This was the condition of Indians living in South Africa. Mahatma Gandhi now decided to fight for the cause of Indians in South Africa. And he coined the term Satyagraha in his newspaper, Indian Opinion, for the first time in South Africa. He started Natal Indian Congress. And his South African experiment was quite successful. In the previous session, we have seen this in quite depth and detail. Now, in 1910, when he came to India for the first time from South Africa, he came on a ship named as Kildonan Castle. And he wrote a book called as Hind Swaraj. This book was written just within 10 days because it is believed that, many historians believe that Mahatma Gandhi was an ambidextrous personality. He could write with both his hands. So Hind Swaraj was a book written by Mahatma Gandhi. Finally, he came back to India in 1915. And when he came back to India in 1915, we do celebrate Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. True? Now, as soon as he came to India, he was being suggested by his political guru, Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji, to understand the grassroots scenario and realities of India rather than participating in Indian politics directly. For the first time, he got the opportunity in the form of Champaran Satyagraha in 1917. And we have seen this in quite depth and detail in the peasant movements. In Champaran Satyagraha, it is believed that indigo was being cultivated in the region of Champaran. And Britishers forced to cultivate indigo on the peasants of Champaran. Correct? Compulsorily, the peasants of Champaran had to cultivate indigo on 3 by 20th part of their land. Now, a local peasant named as Rajkumar Shukla invited Mahatma Gandhi to conduct a detailed satyagraha in the region of Champaran. Mahatma Gandhi arrived in Champaran along with J.B. Kriplani, Mahadev Desai, Mazhar Ullak, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Ji, and many more. Finally, Champaran Agrarian Committee was being created and Mahatma Gandhi was one of its members. And what we say, the Teen Kathya system was finally abolished. This was one of the mainstream entry of Mahatma Gandhi into the politics of the Indian National Congress at that time. Meanwhile, there were many activities that were going on in the country. For example, Britishers had come up with one act which is referred as Rowlatt Act, which is also referred as Revolutionaries and Anarchical Crime Act. Since why it is called as Rowlatt Act? Because it was being drafted by Sir Sidney Rowlatt. As per this act, without any warrant, just on the basis of suspicion, a person could be arrested. Correct? And what does the rule say? What does the law say? If a person is arrested, he needs to be produced in front of a district magistrate within 24 hours. You might have studied in polity habeas corpus. True, guys? So, as per this act, a person could be arrested without warrant just on the basis of suspicion. And he could be detained for the next 2 years. And after 2 years, if that person is not found guilty, he would be released. But for the 2 years, he was confined in imprisonment. Correct? Mahatma Gandhi called this as a Black Act. And nationwide Hartal was being organized against this act. And Hartal was also organized in the region of Punjab, particularly in the region of Amritsar, which led to one of the major massacre at that time, which is Jallianwala Bagh massacre. This is Jallianwala. Okay? Jallianwala Bagh massacre. And what is Jallianwala Bagh massacre all about? When Mahatma Gandhi declared nationwide Hartal, two major leaders from the region of Punjab, they organized Hartal in the region of Amritsar. Dr. Satyapal Ji and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo Ji. And they were being arrested. Punjab came under martial law. And martial law was being imposed in Punjab. The innocent crowd, approximately around 15 to 20,000 people gathered in Jallianwala Bagh. And they gathered majorly for two purposes. The first purpose was peaceful protest against the arrest of their leaders, Dr. Satyapal Ji and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo Ji. And the second major purpose was to celebrate the famous Baisakhi festival. And the innocent crowd did not know about this, that martial law has been imposed in the region of Punjab. General Dyer, he encircled the entire Jallianwala Bagh. It is called as Jallianwala because it was being constructed by Pandit Jalla, one of the courtiers of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji. He encircled the entire Bagh or the entire garden. The garden had a very narrow entry gate and a very narrow exit gate. And he fired upon the unarmed crowd. The firing continued for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and for the next 15 to 20 minutes, 15 to 20,000 people were caught under the hails of bullets. Approximately more than 2,000 people died in this massacre. And the British official records says that approximately 378 people lost their lives in this massacre. As soon as Mahatma Gandhi heard about this, he said that this is a mistake of Himalayan magnitude, and he returned back his Kesari Hind gold medal. Rabindranath Tagore ji, he renounced his knighthood, and Britishers, for the sake, they came up with a committee which is called as Hunter Committee or Disorders Enquiry Committee. The committee had 7 members, out of which the 4 members were Englishmen and there were 3 Indian members in the committee. Correct? This was one of the incidents that India was going through. Apart from this, Khilafat movement. Now, what is Khilafat movement already? We have studied about this already in the previous session, but let me give you a brief synopsis about this. The World War I had already created wartime miseries for the people of India. Already people of India were facing the situation of unemployment and inflation. And during World War I, what did the Britishers do? They drive out the resources from India. Correct? Second thing, what major thing happened? During World War I, Britain, France and Russia were on one side. Apart from this, Germany, Hungary, Austria and Turkey was on opposite side. After the end of the World War I, there was a treaty signed which is referred as Treaty of Versailles and Treaty of Sevres. As per the Treaty of Versailles and Treaty of Sevres, the territorial boundaries of Turkey were being redistributed. And in that case, the Turkey was being ruled by Ottoman Emperor, who was also referred as Caliph or Khalifa. The Caliph is considered as a temporal head of the religious and the spiritual Muslims. Whatever Caliph used to say, every Muslim had to listen to him. And at that time, specifically, the position of Caliph was being abolished and democratic government was imposed on Turkey. Different Muslim symbols were being destroyed and major role here was being played by a person named as Mustafa Ataturk, who was a pro-Western person. So the country was going through these many situations at this particular point of time. There were many revolutionary activities that were taking place in the country at this time. So the time now, Britishers had come up with another important act, meanwhile, to pacify the people of India. We have seen in Swadeshi movement, guys, when Swadeshi movement engulfed the entire part of India, it became a pan-India movement. To pacify the Indians, what did Britishers come up with? Indian Council Act 1909, also referred as Morley-Minto reforms. Morley was Secretary of State for India and Minto was Viceroy of India. Again in 1919, when the entire country was going through these sorts of events, to pacify Indians, Britishers had came up with what? Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Correct? Also referred as Government of India Act 1919, which was being heavily criticized by the nationalists of all the ranks. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji said, it's a sunless dawn. Correct? So now, the time is ripe wherein the country will go through one of the most massive movements in the form of non-cooperation movement, which was being conducted by Mahatma Gandhi. So, before initiating the non-cooperation movement, like Mahatma Gandhi directly did not initiate the non-cooperation movement. In fact, he portrayed certain demands in front of the Britishers. But these demands fell on a deaf ear. Britishers hardly paid any attention to the demands that have been portrayed. So what were the major demands? First thing, annulment of the Rowlatt Act that we have seen right now, which is also referred as Revolutionary and Anarchical Crime Act. Remedifying the Punjab wrong, particularly what Britishers have adopted their attitude in Punjab. Correct. That is completely wrong. And Britishers should feel apologetic about this. And a proper inquiry committee should be conducted on this. Remedifying the Khilafat wrong. As I have told you, as per Treaty of Versailles and Treaty of Sevres, a different attitude have been adopted by the Britishers against Turkey. So a lenient attitudes need to be adopted towards Turkey and the position of Caliph needs to be restored. This was one of the major demand. Correct? And satisfying the nationalist urge for Swaraj. Getting the points clear? One more important fact I'll tell you. Here we are talking about Swaraj. But in 1920, there was a special session at Ahmedabad where for the first time, Hasrat Mohani ji, he asked for or he proposed a resolution for complete independence. So now all these demands were portrayed in front of the Britishers and all these demands fell on a deaf ear. Britishers hardly paid attention to any of these demands of the Indians. And finally, different sessions of the Indian National Congress were being conducted. Correct? There were different special sessions of Indian National Congress that were being conducted in 1920. One of the session was in Allahabad, where they portrayed these demands. Again in 1920, another special session was being conducted at Calcutta, where Britishers were being deterred that if you do not listen to any of our demands, forcefully, we have to start the non-cooperation movement, which in Hindi is referred as Asahyog Andolan. Again, as we have discussed, all these demands fell on a deaf ear. Finally, in 1920, Nagpur session, I repeat, finally in 1920, Nagpur session presided by Vijay Raghvacharya, it was decided that now we are going to start with a movement on a massive scale on pan-India basis in the form of non-cooperation movement. Correct? Non-cooperation movement, guys, pay attention to one thing. As I've told you right from the start itself, Indian National Congress was formed in 1885. Correct? And right from the start itself, on ideological basis, Indian National Congress was divided into two parts, moderates and the extremists. Moderates, they believed in prayer, protest, petition, resolution, and so on. They wanted independence, but not all of a sudden, gradual step-by-step manner. On the other hand, extremists, apart from this, moderates wanted self-government, not complete independence. On the other hand, as the name suggests, extremists, they were quite radical. They wanted complete independence, and they believed that to gain independence, even if we have to adopt extra constitutional means, we will do that. So the Indian politics, or the politics of the Indian National Congress from 1885 to 1905 was being dominated by the moderate section of INC. And after this, there cropped up another section which is referred as revolutionary, which in Hindi is referred as Krantikari. Revolutionaries believed only in one thing, eye for an eye. And they believed in assassination of unpopular officials. But after the entry of Mahatma Gandhi into the mainstream Indian politics at that time, it is believed that Indian National Congress was now being driven by Gandhian ideology. And Gandhian ideology is majorly based on twin pillars. And these twin pillars are Satya, and second is Ahimsa, truth and non-violence. Please remember these two words, because Satya and Ahimsa will remain the basic pillars of all the major Gandhian movements. Rather it be the non-cooperation movement, rather it be civil disobedience movement, or in the coming years, the Quit India movement. To an extent, in the Quit India movement, Satya and Ahimsa won't have that major part. But at least in non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement, they will play a very crucial role. Now began a non-cooperation movement, and important changes took place in the Indian National Congress. Hope so you got the points till here, guys. I'm going in a bit slow manner so that you can understand the points in a step-by-step manner. Okay? Hope so the points are clear till here. Let's go ahead. Guys, as I've told you about the Surat split, and we have discussed about Surat split in quite depth and detail. One of the major causes for the Surat split was the increasing differences between the moderates and the extremists. True, moderates had certain other demands, extremists had certain other demands. But one of the major reasons was that Swadeshi movement, although it started from the region of Bengal, it became a pan-India movement. Correct. So one question crops up in the mind of every aspirant. If Swadeshi movement was so successful, why did it fizzle out? One of the major reasons was, although the movement was started from Bengal and it spread to different parts of country, but there was no centralized leadership at that particular point of time. And here the major card was being played by the Britishers. How? They wanted to suppress the extremist section. And if they have to suppress the extremist section, they have to pacify the moderates. And Britishers pacified the moderates in the form of Indian Council Act 1909, also referred as Morley-Minto reforms. True? Apart from this, Surat split, as I've told you, Surat split, what happened? At Surat split, it is believed that Lala Lajpat Rai ji wanted to be the president. Or the extremists believe that either Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji or Lala Lajpat Rai ji should preside the session of the Indian National Congress. Correct? But apart from this, it is believed that Ras Bihari Ghosh, he presided the Surat session of Indian National Congress, and the Surat session of Indian National Congress was attended by more than 2,000 delegates. When Firoz Shah Mehta ji stood up to address the session, some unidentified person hurled a shoe on Firoz Shah Mehta ji, who is also referred as Lion of Bombay. Another person, that is Surendranath Banerjee, was sitting beside Firoz Shah Mehta ji. He is also referred as Indian Burke because his thoughts, his views are based on Western philosopher like Edmund Burke. Hence, he is also referred as Indian Burke and one of the most revered moderate leaders of Indian National Congress. another person hurled a shoe on Surendranath Banerjee, and there was a very chaotic situation here. So what is the crux of telling you this? The crux here is the number of delegates were not fixed. But now for the proper success of the non-cooperation movement, the number of delegates were being fixed and a proper hierarchical pattern was being followed. Like there was a Congress level committee at the central level, which consisted of 15 members. Below it was Provincial Congress Committee. Below it was Ward or Taluka Congress Committee. And finally, Village Level Congress Committee. So there was a proper hierarchical format that was being followed. Correct? And here, it was based on twin pillars as discussed earlier. That is Satya and Ahimsa. Khadi now became the symbol of the movement and the people at this time. So, non-cooperation movement, as the name suggests, what happened here? Non-cooperation, in simple words, if Britishers are making a particular law, we are not going to cooperate with the Britishers, or we are not going to abide by that law. Correct? And this include boycott. In Swadeshi movement, we had seen Swadeshi and boycott both were complementary to each other. How? You are only going to adopt indigenous goods when you are going to boycott the foreign goods. Same things are replicated here as well. Boycott of law courts, boycott of government schools and colleges, boycott from the nominated seats, boycott of elections that is going to be held on the lines of Government of India Act 1919. Correct? Apart from this, if there is boycott of something, there is adoption of something. So what happened here? There cropped up national schools and colleges, arbitrary courts in the form of panchayats in the village areas. Correct? There were many leaders who left Congress at this point of time because they were not acceptable to the Gandhian ideology. Annie Besant, correct? Apart from this, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, G.S. Kharpade, Surendranath Banerjee, he himself formed another political party, that is Indian National Liberation Federation. Correct? So here, apart from the boycott, there was establishment of national schools and colleges, Bihar Vidyapeeth, one among them. And the major role here was being played by many nationalists of that time, Lala Lajpat Rai ji, Acharya Narendra Dev ji, Dr. Zakir Hussain ji, and many more. Apart from this, one of the major factor here was to maintain Hindu-Muslim unity. In Swadeshi movement, Britishers played a communal card to hurt the communal fabric of the nation. How? We had seen that they divided the Bengal on the pretext of it being too big to be administered. But their hidden intention was to hurt the communal fabric of the nation, because West Bengal was a Hindu majority province and East Bengal was a Muslim majority province. But since, as I've told you, now in 1916 there was a Lucknow Pact where Indian National Congress and All India Muslim League decided that they are going to work together. And Khilafat movement was merged with non-cooperation movement. So Hindu-Muslim unity was one of the major factors of the non-cooperation movement. Correct? Now let's understand about the course of the movement. How did the movement spread to the different parts of the country? Moving ahead, Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, both of them toured along with Mahatma Gandhi, and they covered different parts of the country. And the non-cooperation movement spread to the different parts of the country. Tana Bhagat sect of Bihar, they boycotted liquor, and they in simple words, they protested in front of the liquor shops. Rahul Sankrityan, he played a very major role in sensitizing the masses, particularly in the region of Bihar. I repeat, Rahul Sankrityan. He played a very major role in sensitizing the masses, particularly in the region of Bihar. Heaps of foreign clothes were brought and they were burned. Boycott of foreign sugar, boycott of foreign salt, protest in front of the liquor shops. Apart from this, J.M. Sen Gupta and Birendranath Samsal played a very prominent role in spreading the movement, particularly in the region of Assam and Bengal, in the form of railway strikes. So the movement became quite successful. But at this particular point of time, the movement was not successful. It was not that successful, correct, in the region of Bombay. Why? Because Bombay at this time was mourning the death of its one of the most revered leaders, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. So, Mahatma Gandhi, he came up with a fund because to sustain a movement, one requires money. So, Mahatma Gandhi, he came up with a fund which is referred as Tilak Swaraj Fund. And just in the name of Tilak, correct, more than 50 lakhs to 1 crore rupees came in the fund from the region of Bombay Presidency. Just in the name of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Women gave up their jewelry. People sold their property and whatever money came out of selling that property, that was given in the fund just in the name of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. You can imagine, guys, if in the name of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, people have given so much of money into the funds, if Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji could have been alive, correct, how this movement could have spread to the different parts of the country. True? Apart from this, Prince of Wales arrived in 1921. And Prince of Wales, he was being raised, or specifically, Prince of Wales, specifically slogans were being raised against him with black flags. Now comes the last phase of the movement. Now, non-cooperation movement became quite successful. And there were many revered and respected and the prominent nationalists at that time who believed that if this movement is so successful by now, the time is ripe where we can convert the non-cooperation movement into civil disobedience movement. Around 1921, at that time, C.R. Das, one of the most prominent leaders of Indian National Congress, he was in jail. So the acting president became Hakim Ajmal Khan ji. Now Hakim Ajmal Khan said that I give the entire onus to Mahatma Gandhi. Whatever Mahatma Gandhi says, I'll take that decision. Now before launching the civil disobedience movement, Mahatma Gandhi put forward two major conditions in front of the Britishers. The first condition was release of all political prisoners who were not guilty of violence. In simple words, when the non-cooperation movement was in full vogue throughout the countries, Britishers played a very dominant role in suppressing the movement. The satyagrahis were arrested. The properties of satyagrahis were being confiscated. So, these satyagrahis were protesting peacefully. As I've told you, one of the pillar is ahimsa, non-violence, but still they were being arrested. Correct? So Mahatma Gandhi put forward one of the demands in front of the Britishers that here the people who are not guilty of violence should be released. Correct? But again, it fell on a deaf ear. Second major demand that was being put forward in front of the Britishers was press control should be removed, because Britishers played a very dominant role in suppressing the movement throughout the countries. It is believed that more than 5,000 to 6,000 satyagrahis were being arrested. This is an official record. Unofficially, nobody knows about this. Getting the points clear? Now, this was a deterrence that was given by Mahatma Gandhi to Britishers that if you do not listen to any of these demands, forcefully, I have to start a civil disobedience movement. But one incident took place that shook the entire nation. And that incident was Chauri Chaura incident. You might have heard about this, correct? You might have read in the NCERT books, Tamil Nadu State Board books. So what is this incident all about? Chauri Chaura, it's a village, a small village in the region of Gorakhpur. And people under the leadership of Bhagwan Ahir, were peacefully protesting in front of liquor shop against the rising prices, against the inflation, against the unemployment and so on, against the exploitative character of the British rule. And now, these peaceful protesters were being meted out with violence. Few policemen came and started doing the lathi charge on the people who were peacefully protesting. Correct? Now this crowd got converted into a mob. What's the difference between the crowd and a mob? Crowd is a gathering of people, social gathering of a people. Mob, it's an angry crowd. Correct? It got converted into a mob. And finally, 22 policemen were being burnt. They got quite angry. They got quite aggressive. They torched the entire police station. When the policemen started running out, these policemen were again being thrown into the police station. And in this incident, 22 policemen lost their lives. And this incident in the history of modern India is referred as Chauri Chaura incidents as a part of non-cooperation movement. And as soon as Mahatma Gandhi heard about this, entire non-cooperation movement was being withdrawn. Why? Right in the start, as I've told you, any movement of Mahatma Gandhi is sustained on two major pillars, Satya and Ahimsa, non-violence. True? Apart from this, what happened? After this, what was the government response? Public meetings were banned. Mahatma Gandhi was being arrested and sent to jail for the next 6 years. So if this movement was that successful, why did Mahatma Gandhi take back the movement? First thing, Mahatma Gandhi believed that people of India have not correctly understood what non-violence is. True? So this was the belief of Mahatma Gandhi. Apart from this, as I've told you, Khilafat movement was merged into the non-cooperation movement. But throughout the non-cooperation movement, I haven't discussed a single word on Khilafat movement. So entire Khilafat issue got dissipated. It disappeared. Correct? The second major cause. The complete position of caliph was being abolished in the region of Turkey. So the movement, which was sustained on the principles or merger of Khilafat movement, now completely got dissipated. And Britishers hardly listened to any of the demands of the Indian National Congress led by Mahatma Gandhi at that time. Hence, Mahatma Gandhi had to withdraw the non-cooperation movement. Hope so the points are clear, guys, about the non-cooperation movement. Yes. Any question, any query, any doubt? Points are clear, guys? Now, I'll give you a question for the mains answer writing. You can write this answer in the coming sessions or so on. What are the major differences in strategy of Indian National Congress in non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement? Here you have to go for a comparative analysis. So this is one of your homework, guys. Correct? Your second homework for the mains answer writing is, the question is, and it's a statement of John Sullivan, our system acts very much like a sponge, drawing up all the good waters from the bank of river Ganges and squeezing them down on the bank of river Thames. You can note down the question, guys. Our system acts very much like a sponge, drawing up all the good waters from the bank of river Ganges and squeezing them down on the bank of river Thames. Elucidate. Second question. And this question relates to drain of wealth theory. We have seen that again in quite depth and detail. Correct, guys? Now, my third question for the homework is, although Swadeshi movement was quite successful, but why did it fizzle out? Here we had discussed. Correct? These are the three questions that you have to go for mains answer writing, guys. Please develop one of the practices, because I've seen many students, I've seen many aspirants, and they meet me on daily basis. They have a lot of knowledge. They have a good command over the core content. But the most important aspect that we need to understand, guys, is how to present that knowledge. Isn't that so? The presentation plays a very major role. So develop one habit on daily basis for the next 15 minutes. On daily basis, do write one answer every day. I'm pretty sure about this. Initially, you will feel that your answer writing is not up to the mark. But with the passage of time, what will happen? You will start seeing changes in the pattern of your own answer writing when you start comparing your answers that you have written now and what you had written previously. So develop one habit, guys, please, because it will 100% surely help you out in the mains examination. And the habit is answer writing. One answer, hardly it will take 10 to 15 minutes, guys. One answer on daily basis. So I've given you the homework, 3 questions. So please do write that. Okay, guys. I won't take much time. Let's go for Swarajist or the Swaraj party or Congress Khilafat Swaraj party. Now, sudden withdrawal of non-cooperation movement was a rude shock to the nationalists of different ranks. Like, There were various nationalists who believed that, like Lala Lajpat Rai ji, N.C. Kelkar, C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru, Vitthal Bhai Patel, who believed that during the entire non-cooperation movement, Britishers have adopted a very brutal policy of suppression. Here there was a violent act, and Mahatma Gandhi did not take the movement back. But when 22 Englishmen died in Chauri Chaura incident, the entire movement was being withdrawn. So now they were specifically these sections, particularly Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, Hakim Ajmal Khan, Vitthal Bhai Patel, they believed that this was not a good step that was being taken by Mahatma Gandhi, because we had sustained this movement for approximately 2 to 3 years. And the movement had become pan-India. People had developed an enthusiasm and the lost fervor. So now, certain sections, they believe that Hakim Ajmal Khan, Vitthal Bhai Patel, C.R. Das, correct, Motilal Nehru, they believe that we had adopted a policy of boycott of elections, legislative elections, as per Government of India Act 1919. Correct? Now we want a change in strategy. Now we will participate in the elections, and we will participate in the election and end the boycott of Legislative Council. So these people are referred as pro-changers because they wanted to change the strategy that was adopted in the non-cooperation movement. On the other hand, there was another section led by C. Rajgopalachari ji, who believed that if we participate in the elections held as per Government of India Act 1919, we will go against the policy of non-cooperation movement. Correct? Because non-cooperation movement had one of its clauses or strategy that we have to boycott the elections. But if we participate in the elections, this is against that policy. So we will not, what we say, participate in election. We will boycott the election. And such people are referred as no-changers. Correct? C. Rajgopalachari. But pro-changers again believe that if the non-cooperation movement has ended, the points of non-cooperation movement also have ended. So we want to participate in the election so that we can enter the council and mend the council. Simple words, we can sit in the council, we will make laws and we will change those laws. This was the belief. So there were dissenting opinion between the pro-changers and the no-changers. Pro-changers on one hand had N.C. Kelkar, Vitthal Bhai Patel, C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru. On the other hand, here majorly was C. Rajgopalachari. Finally, Indian National Congress session was held in 1922 at a place called as Gaya. And it was being presided by C.R. Das ji, who was a pro-changers. And there were dissenting opinion between C.R. Das and C. Rajgopalachari. At this time, Mahatma Gandhi was in jail. As we had seen that after the non-cooperation movement, Mahatma Gandhi was sent to jail for the next 6 years. True. So now there were dissenting opinion in the 1922 session, which was held at Gaya. And after this dissenting opinion, there was split in the Congress. And apart from the Congress, there was a new political party that cropped up in the form of Congress Khilafat Swaraj Party or Swaraj Party. Now, Swaraj Party, particularly, they participated in elections and they performed very well. It was an exemplary performance. They secured 42 seats in the central provinces. And for a political party which is quite new, it was a very good achievement at that time. They acquired 42 seats. And finally, the Swaraj Party, initially it was successful. But after the death of C.R. Das, particularly in 1925, the Swaraj movement, it got weakened further. In fact, C.R. Das, who was a pro-changer, he believed that Swaraj is for masses, not for classes. Now, why C.R. Das ji said this statement, Swaraj is for masses and not for the classes? Because within Swaraj Party, there were two dissenting opinions, one in the form of responsivist, and the other in the form of non-responsivist. Responsivists particularly were Lala Lajpat Rai ji. They believed that the higher echelons, the higher portfolio should be acquired by Hindus to protect the Hindu interest. And they criticized different leaders like Motilal Nehru. So here, it is believed that C.R. Das said, Swaraj is not for a particular class. It is for the entire nation. And by now, And in 1924, Mahatma Gandhi ji was released from the jail on the health grounds. Like as I've told you, in 1922, he was being arrested, but on the health grounds, he was being released 2 years later. And in 1924, a session was held of Indian National Congress at Belgaum. And this session was being presided by Mahatma Gandhi, the only session of Indian National Congress to be presided by Mahatma Gandhi. Answer in the comment section, guys. My one question is, which was the first session of Indian National Congress to be attended by Mahatma Gandhi? Guys, I haven't asked the question which was the first session that was presided by Mahatma Gandhi. Which was the first session that was being attended by Mahatma Gandhi? Okay. So in 1924, the session of Indian National Congress was held at Belgaum. And the session was being presided by Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi knew about the split. Correct? In Surat split, there were being increasing differences between the moderates and extremists. And what was the consequence of that? What was the outcome of that? For the next 6 years, there was a political vacuum in the entire nation. Finally, in 1914, after the entry of Annie Besant and the release of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, there began another movement in the form of Home Rule League movement, which regained the lost fervor of the people of India. So Mahatma Gandhi knew the disastrous effect of the split. And so now he insisted the Swarajist leader not to fight, because who would ultimately gain in this fight? The Britishers would be the ultimate gainers and we would be the ultimate losers. So finally, Swaraj Party was finally merged into Indian National Congress on the insistence of Mahatma Gandhi. Hope so the points are clear. As I've told you, Rahul Sankritiyan, he was one of the leaders of non-cooperation movement in the region of Bihar. Hope so the points are clear, guys. The Swaraj Party and the non-cooperation movement, one of the most important aspects of the modern Indian history. Yes. Correct. As I've told you, Hasrat Mohani, for the first time, he proposed the complete independence in a special session at Ahmedabad. Hope so the points are clear, guys. Okay. By now, we have seen multiple topics of modern Indian history. We have seen topics like important governor generals, important charter act, economic impact of the British rule, peasant movement, the famine commissions. Apart from this, Indian National Congress revolt of 1857, social-religious reform movements in the form of Renaissance, correct, Surat split. So we have seen multiple topics. One of the most dynamic topics that we have seen, Montego-Chelmsford reforms, and we have seen that in a very clause-by-clause manner, in a comparative analysis form. So guys, those who are new to the platform, you can download the PDF of these videos from my Telegram channel, history_Alok Ojha. I repeat the Telegram channel's name, history_Alok Ojha. You can download the PDF, all the PDF of modern India. Correct? If you have any query, if you have any question, you can connect with me. You can ask me the questions. I'll reply to your questions. Please do follow the pattern of answer writing, guys, as I have discussed about the importance of answer writing. Those who are new to the platform, you can watch the previous videos of ancient Indian history and the previous videos of modern Indian history. Here, I have tried to cover things in quite depth and detail. Okay, guys. Now, let me speak about the UPSC IAS English batch, foundation batch, and it's an evening batch, okay, which will start from April evening, and it's an evening batch. The key features of this batch are Prelims and Mains Residential Program. As discussed previously, for example, Prelims and Mains Residential Program, herein, the people would be coming to Delhi, correct? And once you come to Delhi, specifically, you are surrounded by the like-minded people. Everyone here is preparing for civil services, your fellow aspirants. So once you start discussing things with them, for example, suppose I'm an aspirant and I'm having lunch with you guys, correct? Something I'm discussing about international relations. I'm discussing about the policy followed by Peshwa Bajirao ji, that is blitzkrieg technique. You have learned something about the emergency imposed in the region of Manipur. So we'll start exchanging ideas. So Prelims and Mains Residential Program is quite successful. It would be quite helpful for you guys. Apart from this, rupees 11,000 rewards to the monthly top performers. Then, once you qualify the prelims examination, the entire fee would be refunded. Correct? And interview guidance program is another key aspect of this batch. To avail the benefits, you can use my code ALOK Live. I repeat, to avail the benefits of this batch, you can use a code ALOK Live and you can interact with me. You can ask the questions related to your mains answer writing, particularly towards history. What approach needs to be followed towards the modern Indian history, the ancient Indian history, medieval history, and so on. Guys, with this, I stop my words. Hope you understood the session. Hope it was interesting. Okay, guys, thank you and have a wonderful